Finish him.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to always go to a roller skating rink, and they had arcades there. And I remember always being more interested in the arcades. There was a crowd of gamers I was peeking through, and I caught a glimpse of this game called Mortal Kombat with a K. And the first thing that caught my attention was how realistic the characters looked. This wasn't the same cartoonish graphics in Street Fighter. It looked more like Pit Fighter, which was a game where they photographed and digitized real actors. But Mortal Kombat made me forget about Pit Fighter pretty quickly.
Scorpion wins.
The other thing that caught my attention was the blood. It was insanely bloody. Now, I've seen blood in games before, but usually it would be like a tiny sprinkle that would like disappear in the air or something. Never does it just land in like pools on the ground. So I'm like, what is this? Like, I was actually like shocked. I was like scared to even play it. And keep in mind, this is like, you know, in the roller skating rink, so there's just kids, you know, it's just all these little kids, you know, skating around, and within eyesight there's this incredibly violent game. And I even heard at school that you could punch people's heads off and like rip people's hearts out of their chests, like Temple of Doom. And I thought that was a rumor. Like, you can't do that in a game. Like, if you did that, you'd have to put like a curtain around it or something, like the porn section at a video store. So I didn't believe it until I saw it. The thing about these finishing moves, or fatalities as they were called, is that you had to know how to do them. Somebody had to know the button combinations and stuff. So you were lucky if you saw it happen. The only way to know was to read about it in GamePro or whatever magazine there was at the time. And actually, there was somebody I know who got like a sheet printed out with all the moves and everything. He got it from his computer. Like, he connected the computer to some modem or something, and it like dialed up to the phone line. It was some like weird new thing. Yes, it was the internet. The first time I ever heard of the internet being used was for Mortal Kombat. That was a pretty historic moment.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality.
Momentarily, I lost interest in Street Fighter because Mortal Kombat was so much more intimidating. Like, what was scarier? Somebody saying, "Tiger uppercut," or "Get over here!" Get over here! The spike pit. That was one of the most insane deaths I've seen in a game. They fight on top of a narrow bridge, and the ideal thing, you want to see them knock somebody off. Kind of like American Gladiators, where they, you know, try to knock each other off, but instead of cushions, you got a bed of spikes. And there's all these body parts laying around there. It was insane.
Kano wins.
The arcade wasn't ideal for me because it's kind of hard to play the game. You gotta stand in line, and there's always somebody there who's hogging the game, like somebody who's just like a master at it, and nobody could beat them. And if you go up there, you're only gonna get humiliated trying. So, you know, there was always that person there who just knew all the moves, who must like cut school and go there to play the game and practice all the time. So anyway, it was all about getting it in the home. I wanted it at home to practice. Finally, it came out on the home consoles, but I had Super Nintendo, and Nintendo took out all the blood. So they changed the finishing moves, and it sucked. There was little like specks of gray. Some people said that was the blood, but they turned it gray. But other people said it was just dust. I don't know, but Sega Genesis kept the blood, but you had to put in a code to use it. So, whoa, like wow, like kids aren't gonna find out the code.
Excellent.
One thing about Sega Genesis was that it only had 3 buttons. You had to use start for block, and it just wasn't ideal. There wasn't enough buttons on the controller, but Super Nintendo had it all covered. So as far as the controllers go, I know I definitely liked it better on Super Nintendo, aside from not having blood. Then the second game came out, Mortal Kombat 2, and when this one came out, I guess Nintendo realized we gotta put the blood in there. So the second game, blood intact, and everything was good. Mortal Kombat 2 was everything the first game was and more. More fatalities, more stage fatalities. There's a spike ceiling, a pool of acid. It was mind-blowing. There were friendship moves, just in case you wanted to be nice. There were babalities, and like, it was just weird. Like, it just seemed like there was no limit to the kind of things you could do. My favorite character was Baraka. He had the teeth and the blades. He was the most intimidating one, I thought. One thing about the second game is that there were all kinds of in-jokes with the people who made the game, like with Toasty in the bottom right, Dan Forden, and then you had John Tobias and Ed Boon's names spelled backwards as like Noob Sabat as like a hidden character and stuff like that. So it was one of the first games where I started actually thinking anything about the people who made it. It goes all the way back though to Atari with Howard Scott Warshaw, how he used to like, you know, sneak his initials into it here and there. There'd be all kinds of Easter eggs and hidden things you could find. Hidden secrets were a big part of the game. There were hidden characters that you could unlock, like Smoke and Jade, and this sort of spawned lots of rumors. So my friends and I would pass on all these stories in school, which we never knew were true or not. I guess they were mostly just things that we wished were in the game. One that I heard a lot was a nude code, where I guess you fight nude. And then there was a curse code, I guess, where like Scorpion would say, "Get the fuck over here!" But none of it was true. There was even something I heard about, there's a switch on the back of the game where you can increase the blood. So my friends and I tried to drag one of the arcade machines away from the wall so we could like look for the switch, and no such switch was to be found. There was another rumor I heard that you could play as a character called Hornbuckle, and the way to do it was on Super Nintendo. You play the two-player mode, so you fight off against a friend. You have to do 250 fights. If you do 250 in a row, you will fight Hornbuckle. Well, we stayed up all night. We tried it. Nope. Waste of time.
Reptile wins.
Mortal Kombat 3 was still good, but it wasn't way better than the second one, the same way that the second was, way better than the first. It was more or less the same. So I think I was starting to, my interest in Mortal Kombat was starting to decline at that point. There's all kinds of robot characters in the game, which I thought was weird. And the fatalities seemed to get kind of lazy. Like, there were so many where you just see somebody blow up. On the Super Nintendo, they'd explode and you just see a pile of bones. There'd be like 5 heads and 10 arms. Like, what? The newer games kept getting more and more interesting. Mortal Kombat 4 went to 3D. You rip somebody's leg off and beat them or whatever. So it was always cool waiting for the next game all the time, but it was never as shocking and as fresh as it was when the first game came out.
Raven wins.